Remember when game shows promised fabulous prizes, exotic vacations, and maybe a new car if you spun the wheel just right? Well, some shows in the 80s and 90s took things a bit further, throwing contestants into situations that required not just trivia knowledge, but also medical waivers thick enough to stop a bullet. Today we're counting down 16 game shows that got shut down because apparently someone finally asked, hey, should we really be doing this? Number 16. American Gladiators. Extreme. Okay, kicking off our list is a show that took an already intense concept and cranked it up to 11. The original American Gladiators, which ran from 1989 to 1996, was already pretty brutal. Everyday people competing against roided-up athletes named Laser and Nitro in events that looked like they were designed by someone who watched too much WWE and not enough OSHA training videos. But apparently, that wasn't extreme enough for the mid-90s. So, in 1995, producers tried to launch American Gladiators Extreme, a version that added even more dangerous obstacles, higher platforms, and stunts that made the original show look like a church picnic. The problem was that contestants were getting injured at an alarming rate. We're talking sprains, concussions, and one incident where a contestant broke their collarbone during a rehearsal. The insurance companies took one look at the injury reports and basically said, absolutely not. The show never made it past the pilot stage. Networks realized that while viewers loved watching people get knocked into foam pits, they drew the line at actual emergency room visits. The original American Gladiators continued for another year, but the extreme version was dead on arrival. Mike Adamule, one of the hosts, later admitted in interviews that the extreme concept was too much too soon. As for the gladiators themselves, many went on to successful careers in fitness, acting, and motivational speaking. Turns out being named Gemini and wearing spandex for a living is actually pretty good for your personal brand. Number 15. Wild West. Showdown. Coming in at number 15 is a show that asks the question nobody was asking. What if we combine trivia with actual gunfights? Well, sort of. Wild West Showdown premiered in 1993 on a regional network in Arizona and lasted exactly 3 episodes before lawyers got involved. The concept was simple. Contestants dressed in Old West costumes would answer questions about Western history, and for each correct answer, they'd get to participate in quick draw competitions using prop guns. Sounds harmless enough, right? Except the prop guns were modified starter pistols that fired blanks. And apparently nobody considered that blanks can still be extremely dangerous at close range. During the 3rd episode, 2 contestants got a little too into character during the quick draw portion. One of them fired his blank gun way closer than the safety guidelines allowed, and the other contestant suffered burns and temporary hearing loss. The whole thing was caught on camera, and you could see the host's face go from game show smile to, oh God, we're getting sued in about 2 seconds. The show was immediately canceled. The injured contestants settled out of court, and the production company folded faster than a poker player with a bad hand. The host, a local news anchor named Rick Callahan, went back to reading the weather and presumably never spoke about his brief game show career again. This one stands as a perfect example of 90s TV thinking bigger was better, even when bigger meant giving people guns and hoping for the best. Number 14. Vertical Limit. At number 14, we have Vertical Limit, not to be confused with the 2000 movie of the same name. This show aired for 1 season in 1991 and was basically American Ninja Warrior meets actual rock climb, except without any of the safety features that make American Ninja Warrior relatively safe. Contestants had to scale a 40-foot climbing wall while answering trivia questions. Get a question wrong, and obstacles would activate, making the climb harder. The problem was that the safety harnesses were poorly maintained, the wall itself had structural issues, and the whole setup was basically a lawsuit waiting to happen. Sure enough, during episode 7, a harness failed mid-climb. The contestant fell about 15 feet before the backup safety caught them, but they still suffered a fractured ankle and some pretty severe bruising. The audience gasped so loud it made the final broadcast, which is never a good sign for a game show. The network pulled the show immediately and replaced it with reruns of Press Your Luck, which honestly was probably more dangerous to your bank account if you were a gambling addict, but at least nobody was falling off walls. The host, former Olympic skier Todd Hammond, later said the show was conceptually interesting, but executed terribly. He's not wrong. Taking rock climbing, which is already dangerous, and adding game show pressure was like combining a chemistry exam with a high-wire act. Sure, it sounds exciting, but someone's going to get hurt. Number 13. Splashdown. Splashdown premiered in the summer of 1988 and was part of the wave, pun intended, of water-based game shows that followed in the wake of shows like Dive In. The concept was contestants competing in various swimming pool challenges while answering questions. Here's where it got dicey. One of the main events involved contestants being launched from a giant slingshot into a pool while trying to catch foam balls with correct answers written on them. Yes, you read that right. They were literally catapulting people into water. The physics were questionable at best. Contestants were hitting the water at weird angles, and several people reported neck and back pain after taping. One contestant, a woman named Jennifer Martinez, suffered a serious back injury that required surgery. She later sued the production company and won a substantial settlement, but here's the kicker. The show actually aired for a full season before getting canceled. Apparently, it took that long for someone to say, hey, maybe we shouldn't be launching people through the air like human cannonballs. The 80s were a different time. The host, a former game show announcer named Danny Reed, distanced himself from the show in later years. Can't really blame him. Having catapult-related injuries on your resume probably doesn't help with future hosting gigs. Splashdown is remembered today, if at all, as an example of how far networks would go for ratings before basic safety became a priority. The slingshot was dismantled, and the footage was probably buried in a vault somewhere next to the Ark of the Covenant. Number 12. Brain Freeze. Number 12 is Brain Freeze, a 1994 game show that combined trivia with ice-based challenges. And when I say ice-based, I don't mean contestants stood in a freezer. I mean they were literally encased in blocks of ice while trying to answer questions. The setup was elaborate. Contestants would stand in a chamber that slowly filled with ice and freezing water. They'd have to answer increasingly difficult questions before the ice reached a certain level. Answer correctly and the ice would melt faster. Answer wrong and things got colder. Sounds like a great idea until you remember that hypothermia is a real thing. During the pilot episode, one contestant started showing signs of hypothermia, even though they were only in the ice for about 8 minutes. The medics rushed in, the taping stopped, and the producers probably had a very long conversation with their lawyers. The show was supposed to air as a 6-episode summer series, but only the pilot was completed. The contestant who got hypothermia was fine after being warmed up, but understandably wanted nothing to do with the show ever again. Getting game show prize money isn't worth actual medical conditions. The production company tried to rework the concept with less dangerous cold elements, but by then, the damage was done. Brain Freeze became industry shorthand for a show concept that sounded cool in the pitch meeting, but fell apart in execution. Literally fell apart into ice chunks. Number 11, High Stakes. High Stakes, which premiered in 1992, takes the number 11 spot for being one of the most obviously dangerous concepts ever greenlit. The show featured contestants competing on platforms suspended 50 feet in the air. That's it. That's the whole gimmick. Contestants wore harnesses, but they still had to complete physical challenges while basically dangling over nothing. During one episode, a contestant's harness got tangled during a challenge, leaving them hanging upside down for several minutes, while the crew tried to figure out how to get them down safely. The whole incident aired because it was a live broadcast, and viewers got to watch in real time as game show fun turned into a rescue operation. The contestant was eventually lowered safely, but not before the FCC received hundreds of complaints about the show's safety standards. High Stakes lasted 8 episodes before the plug was pulled. The network claimed it was due to low ratings, but behind the scenes, insurance costs had skyrocketed after the hanging incident. Turns out, insurance companies aren't thrilled about covering shows where people dangle from great heights for a chance at $10,000. The host, game show veteran Tom Bradley, later joked that he spent more time apologizing to contestants than actually hosting. Several crew members from the show went on to work in actual stunt coordination for movies, where apparently the safety standards were somehow better than on this game show. Number 10, Pressure Cooker. Sliding into the number 10 spot is Pressure Cooker, a 1989 game show that combined cooking challenges with increasingly uncomfortable conditions. Think of it as Iron Chef meets a sauna meets your worst nightmare. contestants had to prepare dishes while the temperature in the studio was gradually increased. It started at a comfortable 72 degrees and would eventually reach over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Add in hot stoves, sharp knives, and time pressure, and you have a recipe for disaster. And I don't mean the food. During the 4th episode, a contestant passed out from heat exhaustion while trying to julienne vegetables. The medics rushed in, the taping stopped, and the contestant had to be treated for dehydration and heat stroke. Meanwhile, their souffle collapsed, but that was honestly the least of everyone's concerns. The show was immediately put on hiatus while producers tried to figure out how to make it safer. Their solution was to lower the maximum temperature and provide more water breaks. But by then, word had gotten out about the heat stroke incident, and contestant applications dried up faster than a sauce in a hot kitchen. Pressure Cooker was officially canceled after 6 episodes. The host, celebrity chef Marcus Wellington, later admitted the concept was flawed from the start. "Cooking is already stressful," he said in an interview. "Adding life-threatening heat was just cruel." Some of the contestants went on to successful culinary careers, probably in restaurants with functioning air conditioning. The show is occasionally referenced in articles about the worst game show ideas ever, usually right next to shows that involved actual physical danger. Alright, we're about halfway through this countdown of game show disasters, so here's your chance to weigh in. Did you watch any of these shows back in the day? Drop a comment below and let us know which one sounds the most ridiculous. And while you're at it, hit that like button and make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss our next deep dive into retro TV chaos. Number 9, Danger Zone. At number 9, we have Danger Zone, a 1993 show that was basically Fear Factor before Fear Factor existed, except somehow more dangerous and less thought out. Contestants faced various extreme challenges, from being buried alive in coffins for extended periods to being locked in rooms with insects to walking across narrow beams suspended over water tanks. The show premiered with big expectations. This was the era of extreme sports going mainstream, and networks thought viewers wanted to see ordinary people pushed to their limits. What they didn't account for was that people have actual limits, and sometimes those limits should probably be respected. During episode 5, a contestant had a severe panic attack while buried in the coffin challenge. The rules stated they could tap out at any time, but the contestant was hyperventilating so badly they couldn't signal properly. By the time the crew realized something was wrong and dug them out, the contestant was in full panic mode and had to be taken to the hospital. The incident sparked conversations about informed consent and whether game shows were crossing ethical lines. The answer was a pretty clear yes, but it took a hospitalization to get there. Danger Zone was canceled after 7 episodes, with the final 2 episodes being burned off on late-night time slots where nobody was watching. The host, extreme sports commentator Jake Maxwell, later said he had reservations about some of the challenges, but was told by producers that everything was safe. Classic passing the buck. Maxwell continued working in extreme sports media, but never hosted another game show. Number 8, Shock Jock. Shock Jock premiered in 1991 and was exactly what it sounds like. A game show that used electrical shocks as a penalty for wrong answers. Yes, really, the 90s were wild. Contestants wore special vests that could deliver mild electrical shocks. Get a question wrong, you got shocked. The shocks were supposedly low voltage and approved by medical consultants. But here's the thing about electricity. It affects everyone differently, and what's mild for one person can be severe for another. During taping of the 3rd episode, a contestant with an undiagnosed heart condition received a shock and went into cardiac arrest right there on stage. The crew performed CPR, paramedics were called, and the contestant survived, but the show was immediately shut down, pending an investigation. It came out that the pre-show medical screening had been minimal at best. Contestants filled out a basic questionnaire, but weren't given actual medical exams. The contestant who had the cardiac episode had no idea they had a heart condition, and the shock essentially revealed it in the worst possible way. Shock Jock never aired a single episode. The footage was destroyed, the production company dissolved, and everyone involved signed NDAs thicker than a phone book. The whole thing became an industry cautionary tale about what happens when you prioritize shock value over actual safety. The host, comedian Rick Stevens, never publicly discussed the show and retired from television shortly after. Can't blame him. Having someone nearly die on your watch tends to take the fun out of show business. Number 7. The Gauntlet. The Gauntlet, which aired briefly in 1987, was an obstacle course game show that made American Gladiators look like a leisurely stroll. Contestants had to navigate a series of increasingly difficult physical challenges while racing against the clock. The obstacles included swinging across rope bridges, climbing cargo nets, crawling through tunnels filled with foam, and sliding down ramps into water. Nothing too crazy by today's standards, except that the obstacles were poorly constructed and the safety measures were virtually non-existent. During one episode, a poorly secured cargo net detached from its moorings while a contestant was climbing it. The contestant fell approximately 12 feet onto a mat that was supposed to be padded, but was actually just a thin foam layer over concrete. They suffered a broken wrist and a concussion. Production was immediately halted, and the network pulled the show. An investigation revealed that the obstacle course had been built quickly and cheaply, with multiple safety violations. The construction company that built it lost their license, and the production company faced multiple lawsuits. The Gauntlet aired for only 4 episodes before disappearing into TV history. The host, former NFL player Marcus Johnson, later worked as a sports commentator and made it clear in interviews that he had no involvement in the production side of things. Smart move, Marcus. Number 6. Zero Gravity. Zero Gravity lands at number 6 for being one of the most ambitious and dangerous game show concepts of the early 90s. The show, which premiered in 1992, featured contestants competing in challenges inside a modified airplane that simulated zero-gravity conditions. Yes, they were literally putting game show contestants on the Vomit Comet, and the plane would fly in parabolic arcs, creating brief periods of weightlessness during which contestants had to complete tasks like solving puzzles, catching floating objects, or answering trivia questions. The problem should be obvious. Zero gravity makes a lot of people violently ill. During the second episode's taping, multiple contestants and even some crew members got severe motion sickness. One contestant vomited so violently during a weightless period that it became a floating biohazard, which sounds like a nightmare and was exactly that. The FAA got involved after the second taping, citing safety concerns about using an aircraft for entertainment purposes. The production company tried to argue that everything was above board, but regulators weren't convinced. Zero Gravity was grounded, pun absolutely intended, after only 2 episodes. The host, science educator Dr. Lisa Chen, later said the concept could have worked with better preparation and screening, but the execution was rushed. She went on to host a successful PBS science show for kids, probably because educating children about physics is safer than throwing them into zero gravity. Number 5. Meltdown. At number 5, we have Meltdown, a 1990 show that combined trivia with increasingly extreme heat. Contestants stood in individual booths that got progressively hotter as the game went on. The last person standing won the grand prize. This wasn't just uncomfortable warmth. We're talking temperatures that reached over 120 degrees Fahrenheit in enclosed spaces. Contestants could tap out at any time, but the prize money was substantial enough that people pushed themselves beyond reasonable limits. During the season finale, 3 contestants were hospitalized for heat-related illnesses. One suffered severe dehydration, another had heat stroke, and a third passed out and hit their head on the way down. All 3 eventually recovered, but the incident sparked outrage from medical professionals and viewer advocacy groups. The network tried to defend the show, claiming all contestants signed waivers and were informed of the risks. But when doctors started publicly questioning why anyone thought this was a good idea, the writing was on the wall. Meltdown was canceled before a second season could be produced. What makes this one particularly egregious is that there were multiple incidents throughout the season. Contestants regularly needed medical attention, but the show kept going until the finale disaster forced everyone's hand. It's like they were playing chicken with contestant safety, and everyone lost. The host, game show veteran Robert Palmer, later expressed regret about the show. He admitted in interviews that he raised concerns during production, but was told everything was approved by medical consultants. Those consultants were never named, leading to speculation that they either didn't exist or had the ethical standards of a medieval torture chamber designer. Number 4. Death Drop. Death Drop, which mercifully only existed as a pilot in 1995, was a show where contestants answered trivia questions while standing on platforms that would drop away if they got answers wrong. The drop was into a massive foam pit, but the height varied. Some platforms were only 10 feet up, others were 30 feet. During the pilot taping, a contestant got 3 questions wrong in a row and fell from the highest platform. The foam pit was supposed to be deep enough to cushion any fall, but the contestant landed badly and injured their back. They had to be removed from the pit on a stretcher while still wearing their game show contestant number. The pilot never aired. The production company scrapped the entire project after the incident, and the set was demolished. The contestant recovered but filed a lawsuit that was settled out of court for an undisclosed amount. What's crazy about Death Drop is that it got as far as it did. Multiple people had to sign off on this concept. Network executives, producers, safety coordinators. Everyone apparently thought dropping people from significant heights was acceptable entertainment. The contestant who got injured later did an interview with a local news station about their experience. They said the waiver they signed was dozens of pages long and that they were so excited about being on TV, they didn't read it carefully. Classic mistake that nearly cost them their spine. Number 3. Pressure Point. Breaking into our top 3 is Pressure Point, a 1988 game show that combined trivia with dangerous stunts at high altitudes. Contestants answered questions while performing tasks on narrow beams, rope bridges, and platforms mounted high above the studio floor. The show had a relatively successful run for 2 seasons before disaster struck in season 3. During what was supposed to be a routine taping, a contestant lost their balance while crossing a rope bridge suspended 40 feet in the air. They were wearing a safety harness, but it hadn't been properly secured. The contestant fell approximately 15 feet before the harness caught, but the sudden stop caused severe whiplash and back injuries. And worse, the entire incident was caught on camera and briefly aired before producers realized what had happened and cut to commercial. The aftermath was brutal. The show was immediately canceled. The production company faced multiple lawsuits from the injured contestant, and the safety coordinator was fired and never worked in television again. Investigations revealed that safety protocols had been increasingly ignored as the show went on, with producers prioritizing dramatic footage over contestant safety. The host, former mountain climber David Chen, was reportedly devastated by the incident. He had repeatedly raised safety concerns that were dismissed by producers. After Pressure Point ended, Chen left show business entirely and returned to teaching outdoor safety courses. Talk about a career 180. Pressure Point is still discussed in film and television production courses as a case study in what not to do. The footage of the fall was used in safety training videos for years as an example of the consequences of inadequate safety measures. Number 2. Extreme Measures. Coming in at number 2 is Extreme Measures, a 1993 show that pushed contestants to their absolute physical and mental limits. Each episode featured different extreme challenges, from staying awake for extended periods to enduring extreme cold to completing physical tasks while under significant stress. The show premiered with big ratings, fueled by the extreme sports craze of the early 90s. But by episode 6, things went horribly wrong. One challenge required contestants to stay in a sensory deprivation tank for as long as possible while answering questions over an intercom. The person who lasted longest won. One contestant, a college student named Brian Matthews, stayed in the tank for over 3 hours. When he finally emerged, he was disoriented and confused. What started as simple confusion escalated into a full psychological breakdown. Matthews had to be hospitalized for several days and underwent psychiatric treatment. It turned out that sensory deprivation can have serious psychological effects, especially when combined with the stress of competition. Matthews later sued the show for psychological damages and won a substantial settlement. He also became an advocate for better mental health screening in reality and game show production. Extreme Measures was canceled immediately after the incident. The network issued a statement about prioritizing contestant safety, but the damage was done. the show became synonymous with reality TV going too far, a cautionary tale about what happens when producers chase ratings without considering consequences. The host, extreme sports personality Jake Morrison, later said he had no idea about the potential psychological effects of the challenges. He continued working in sports media, but never hosted another game show. Several contestants from earlier episodes came forward after the cancellation to discuss their own negative experiences, painting a picture of a production that was out of control from the start. Number 1. Ultimate Risk. And here we are at number 1. Ultimate Risk, a 1994 show that holds the dubious distinction of being the most dangerous game show ever produced. It lasted exactly one episode before being permanently canceled, and that episode never officially aired, though bootleg copies have circulated over the years. The premise was simple but insane. Contestants competed in a series of challenges that increased in danger and prize money. Early rounds were relatively tame, standard game show stuff, but the final round, called the Ultimate Risk, was where things got crazy. Contestants had to choose between extremely dangerous stunts for a chance at $100,000. During the pilot taping, the final 2 contestants faced their Ultimate Risk challenge. One option involved bungee jumping from a crane into a small target zone. The other involved racing cars at high speeds. Both contestants chose the bungee jump, thinking it was a safer option. The first contestant completed the jump successfully, though they came dangerously close to missing the target zone. The second contestant wasn't so lucky. Their bungee cord was either miscalculated or faulty. Nobody is quite sure which. They fell too far, hitting the ground hard despite the safety measures in place. The contestant suffered multiple fractures, a severe concussion, and internal injuries. They were airlifted to a hospital and spent weeks in intensive care. Miraculously, they survived, but their recovery took months of physical therapy. Production was immediately shut down. The set was torn apart. The network buried the footage and refused to acknowledge the show's existence for years. The injured contestant sued for millions and won one of the largest settlements in game show history. But here's where it gets even worse. Investigations after the incident revealed that Ultimate Risk had cut corners everywhere. Safety equipment wasn't properly tested. Medical staff on site were underqualified. The insurance coverage was inadequate. Basically, every single safety protocol that should have been in place was either ignored or half implemented. Multiple people lost their jobs, including the executive producer and several network executives who had approved the show. The incident sparked industry-wide changes in how game shows approached stunts and contestant safety. New regulations were put in place, insurance requirements were strengthened, and oversight was increased. The host of Ultimate Risk, a former stunt performer named Rick Dalton, never worked in television again. He later gave one interview where he said he deeply regretted being involved with the show and wished he had walked away when he first saw the final challenges. The contestant who was injured eventually recovered, but has understandably stayed out of the public eye. They used their settlement to pursue other interests and have never publicly discussed the incident in detail. Ultimate Risk represents everything that could go wrong when entertainment value is prioritized over human safety. It's the cautionary tale that ended the era of anything-goes game show production and ushered in an era of increased regulation and oversight. And there you have it. 16 game shows from the 80s and 90s that were shut down for being too dangerous. From electrical shocks to bungee jumping disasters, these shows prove that sometimes the biggest gamble isn't the prize money, it's your personal safety. Which of these shows shocked you the most? Did you remember any of them from back in the day? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this trip through game show history, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into forgotten TV disasters. Until next time, stay safe out there and maybe stick to watching Jeopardy!